Ladies and gentlemen, if you're a teenager watching this right now, you're going to be able to relate to this video very well. Not just through thought, but through actual experience. You're going to be able to relate to this. Because today, ladies and gentlemen, I've decided to set up the camera a bit more casual, a bit more not so intimidating, and talk about something that has been on my mind a lot recently and has been something I've been dealing with that I'm not actually going to discuss because that person's definitely not going to want me to discuss this. But it's something that I think needs addressing, and it's something that's going on in my personal life. And that is young couples and young relationships. And if you're a teenager, I'm sure you've dealt with one before. And you know how most of the time they don't normally work out. However, today, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to go through exactly why they don't work out and how you can make sure they do. What's up, guys? Welcome back to Focus the Future. If you're new here, welcome aboard. This is not my normal camera angles. Don't worry, I'm normally up there, but for today's video, I just thought I'd set it up like this. But if you are new and you like what you're hearing and you like what you're seeing right now, please don't be afraid to go and join the community by hitting the subscribe button or hitting that like button for me. But apart from that, guys, this video is obviously about young couples and relationship advice, so hope you enjoy it. If you're not interested in this, I will leave a card up here for you to go and watch another video of mine, which will allow you to learn a bit more about me. Now, young relationships, they're complicated, they're difficult, and many people are either scared of them or just don't like them because they never work out. And as a teenager, it's very hard to get into a relationship and stay in it for more than a year. I'm not saying it's impossible, because I know a few people myself who are definitely in relationships that are working out, and I am so happy for them people. But for myself, it's not an easy road. Now, one of the biggest reasons, and I think this is actually scientifically proven, for relationships not working at a young age is due to pure immaturity. You generally at your age, or around the ages of 13 upwards, don't really know how to communicate effectively as a couple, and you don't really know what a relationship needs to stay alive. And a lot of the time it can lead to cheating or just general disappointment. However, today, if you're watching this and you're a lot more of a mature teenager, I'm saying you're around 16, 17, you're probably thinking, well, I definitely do know how to communicate to a partner, so why is it still not working for me? Well, there's a lot of things you need to take into consideration. Now, obviously, we've got the three kind of main areas which I consider important in a relationship. That is trust, communication, and affection and love. They're like the three things that I think you definitely need to think about when in a relationship, and you definitely need to carry out while in one. So obviously you've got communication, being able to talk to each other effectively, being able to resolve issues, talk about daily life, and generally being able to speak to each other while feeling comfortable and while not getting into arguments. Then you've got trust. You should be able to trust each other. Even when you're not around each other, you should know that that person loves you, and you should definitely know that they're not doing anything behind your back. Now, trust is one of the hardest things to build with anyone, because everyone has their own mind, and you never know what's going on at the back of that brain of theirs. But at some point, you've got to admit to yourself that, or unless you trust them, this relationship's never going to work out. And that kind of links to communication, because if you're communicating effectively, trust should slowly start to build up. And then you've got love and affection, being able to show you love the person, complimenting them, hugging them, kissing them, and all the other stuff that you have to fulfill in a person. All these things must be carried out for a relationship to at least slightly work. So, we've gone over the three main things, and I just wanted to get that out of the way because it is kind of just the main bit of relationships, and it's the boring stuff. Now let's go over step by step how I'd lead into getting in a relationship. Now, the first thing that needs to happen is you need to meet someone. You either need to know someone or you need to meet someone who you're now considering getting in a relationship with. Now, the first thing I want to express is don't rush it. The biggest mistake I've made personally, and I think a biggest mistake that a lot of people make, is they rush into relationships without thinking about it properly, and they don't think about things logically. Trust me, I've done it. I jumped into my last relationship into a week into knowing this person, and it didn't work out. So, when you first meet someone or you first find someone that you're thinking of starting a relationship in, one of the key things is to not rush. Take your time. You've got a long time to get in one. Don't sit there and think it has to be done that day. Leave it, get to know that person, because sometimes just leaving it that extra day or two could reveal something to you that you then don't like about that person, which could make a difference between either a negative relationship or a positive, happy well-being. So sometimes leaving it that extra bit of time gives it a bit of leeway. Also, when you meet someone for the first time, please remember that they're not going to tell you everything. You're not going to know everything about that person, you're not going to know all their secrets, and you're definitely not going to know truthfully how they feel about you. So, when you first meet someone or thinking of getting a relationship with them, think about all the things that could possibly go wrong with this, and try and add up why they shouldn't go wrong in your head. If you can tick every single box and say that there's a secure answer for every one of them negatives, you might be looking on the right track. Once you've identified that all these different things, like, they're a good person, they don't pose any threat to you, they're the right type of person for you, type very basic stuff, then it's time to connect with them at a very good friend level. You at least want to become their best friend before you start getting into a relationship with them. And this is something that I learned through my last relationship, and it's something that I'm definitely using now as, things are happening in my personal life. And it's something that I really think works, because if you're connected to them at a friend level, at least they start revealing secrets to you. You're starting to dig into their life just a tiny bit more. And for me, this is the deciding point. Once I'm starting to build a friendship up with them, I'm starting to add them up a bit. I'm starting to get a feel of what they're like, what their positives are, and what their negatives are. And from that, I can then make a decision whether I want to continue this any further. The next thing, once you're in this sort of friendship, you're hanging out regularly, you are able to talk to each other comfortably, it's time to build up very strong communication. Start talking about deep things with that person. You should be able to talk about nearly anything with this person, and pretty much it goes smoothly, and you shouldn't feel awkward, uncomfortable, or uneasy. Trust me, once you've got that boundary secured, it's going to save you a lot of hassle when you're in a relationship. Now, I understand the two things I've just suggested to you are hard. When you're young, emotions are flowing, hormones are kicking in, and a lot of the time we don't have control over that, and sometimes our hormones take over. So things like communication and connecting them at a friend level first can go out the window. But if you are able to take control of these things, please try to. The next step is the big one. So you've added up everything you could. You're great friends. You communicate effectively. It's time to make that move. To ask them on a date, or to ask if they want to be in a relationship. Now, one thing I would say, at this stage is kind of reassuring a relationship, but you don't necessarily have to say that we are in a relationship. This step could just be you confessing your interest in that person. Securing to that person that you are interested in them, and, you want to take this further. You don't necessarily have to get in a relationship with them on that day, but it's just kind of confessing, you're making that person aware that you have interests. So at that point, you're kind of securing like a temporary relationship that's on standby. So it basically prevents that other person from going off and dating someone else. Now, asking out is probably the most difficult bit. Saying, do you want to be in a relationship, or saying you have interest in them, or admitting something, it's scary, bloody nerve-wracking, and it really does get anxiety levels up and nerve levels up and makes your brain do weird things. But at the end of the day, at some point, you're going to have to do it. As much as we'd love for the other person to do it first, because it eases the pressure on us, at some point, either you're going to have to do it or she's going to have to do it. And men out there, it looks good on you if you do it first, I ain't going to lie. Now, a few key tips for asking someone out. What you don't want to do is make them feel pressured. You want to make them feel as comfortable as possible. I'd prefer to do this face to face. The last one I tried didn't work out like that. Sometimes it doesn't, but if it's possible, please try it and do it face to face. And if that's not possible, the second best option is to do it over text. But the main objective is to not make them feel pressured, to make them feel as comfortable as possible, and to make sure that you are getting your accurate feelings across to them. Don't exaggerate it, don't make it look over the top, make it sound as realistic as possible. Right guys, so you've done the 3 key steps of building a relationship. You're on a good roll. You've got good communication, you're good friends, and now you're showing interest into them, or you might already be in a relationship at this point. Boom. 3 things now down. This is pretty secure at this point. But it doesn't mean the work stops and, all this is like gonna become an easy road now. Because trust me, you're just getting started. Now, relationships have phases, and I think one of the most important thing is identifying these phases and being able to cope with each one of them. The first one is obviously the honeymoon stage, or the stage where you're literally in fairy tale land thinking things are wonderful daisies. And trust me, at this stage you're going to feel over the moon, you're going to feel like you own the planet, but it doesn't last forever. I'm saying it's going to last for a month, maybe 2, but after that it's going to drop off, and your love and affection for each other you're going to have to start working for after a little while. So take that into consideration. Your first 2 months, you can probably be a bit relaxed. Your love is still very strong. You're still very connected. There's not much work that has to be done. A bit of communication here and there. But apart from that, it's quite easy going. But after that 2-month period hits, that's it. Honeymoon stage is over. And realistically, you need to start thinking about how you're going to keep this relationship going. Now, one of the big things that you will be doing during the honeymoon phase, if you're this type of couple, will be hugging, kissing, and physical contact. It's something you're going to be doing. And, during the honeymoon phase, this is pretty normal. There is an extent of, you do this no matter what. After the honeymoon phase ends, this starts to become a bit more weird. Not weird, but it might not be all the time. Maybe you two need to take a break from each other, and it's something to start thinking about. I'm not saying you shouldn't hug them, you shouldn't kiss them, but really start to think about how often you're doing it. If you're literally pestering them, and you're doing it every second of every minute you're with them, it's really time to start thinking about it. Kind of back off a bit. You want to show affection, but you also want to give them time to themselves. And this is my next big tip for this. Once you're at this stage of a relationship, considering each other's needs, considering each other's lives, considering what each other needs for each person, and really weighing it up and deciding what the best course of action is at this point. Remember, it's not just you two. You both have careers, you both have a life to live, you both have friends. It's not just you two in a fairy tale land. You both have separate lives, and it's time to start thinking about, can you two live alone without each other, or are you two literally relying on each other to basically stay happy? And that's where dangerous territory starts to kick in. So have conversations about it. Have conversations about what you guys want to do in the future. Have conversations about marriage. Have conversation about kids. All these different things that you guys have got to figure out. Because remember, you've just made yourself a team. If you want to make this a committed relationship, these are things that at some point you're going to have to talk about. So you might as well get it over with early. It's also, for a boy or a girl, it's going to make the other person a bit more interested in you. If you're, kind of in your future ideas of life kind of match or are similar, like how many kids you want or what careers you want, then that's going to make the other person a bit more interested in you. And it's definitely something worth discussing. And really, the entire idea of this is just being able to live without that person and not relying on that person for absolutely everything. Yes, you're a couple, you're in a relationship, but at the end of the day, you do live your own lives, and your life doesn't literally revolve around that person. At this point, once all these things have been settled, and trust me, during this stage, you are going to have arguments, you're going to have bickers, you are going to fall out. It's natural. You two are figuring each other out, and there's going to be a bit of an imbalance at some point. So don't be surprised by it. Arguments are healthy. I'm not saying you should argue all the time, but arguing once a week, after a little while, once a month, it's fine. It's good. It's not something to be severely worried about. As long as these arguments are not turning violent or to the point where you're literally disrespecting each other. Apart from that, it's pretty healthy. Once that stage is over, you are probably going to be at the most stable stage of your relationship you will ever be at. I'm saying this is going to be after a year, 2 years. Remembering the timings I'm giving you, I'm basing off of like what I've seen online and also, just general relationships in general. Timings could be much different for you. It could take you 4 years to get to this point. I don't know. I'm just giving you a rough estimate. But after you've got over that stage of figuring out each other a bit more, you're in a pretty stable point, and you guys should know each other like literal rocks. Like, there shouldn't be much about you that's unstable or that you don't know about each other. And at this point, you're probably in one of the easiest parts of the relationship. But oh boys, it doesn't end there. Now it's commitment. You guys are now going to have to make the decision whether you are going to commit to each other for the rest of your lives. And if you've got to this stage, you should be a pretty happy man or a pretty happy woman, because you may have just found the love of your life. But that doesn't mean the effort ends. That doesn't mean you should just completely stop putting effort into the relationship. Just because, you're basically saying to each other you're going to live with each other for the rest of your lives, that doesn't mean the work stops. This relationship has got to keep up somehow. So it still does mean you're going to have to do lots of things to make sure this stays as good as it was at the beginning. So let me give you a few things you can do. Now, first off, communication needs to stay up. You guys need to be talking regularly. Dating never ends. You guys should be going on dates. I can't really give you the amount of times a month you should be going on dates, but I'm saying that there should be at least one time every week where you're spending quality time together, and at least once a month where you're going out and doing something together that's a bit more exciting, that keeps your relationship alive. Because at the end of the day, at some point your personalities are going to change, your body figures are going to change, and at some point you're going to have to relearn each other. So that's why dating never stops. For lads out there, a key tip from me is to go out and buy the person you're dating a gift every so often. It doesn't have to be for any special occasion, but if you've gone to a coffee shop or you've gone out and you've seen a shop, just pop in there and buy something for your romantic other. This can be done by the woman as well. Just buy something for your significant other every so often. It will make them feel very loved, you just popping out to a shop and getting something for them. Next time you're at a coffee shop, instead of just getting a coffee for yourself, even if your girl's not with you, buy her a coffee as well and take it home for her, especially if she likes coffee. If not, then it can be anything. Another thing is to take breaks from each other. Remember that, again, you guys are not the bound of each other's lives. You do live separate lives, and you shouldn't be spending every single minute of every single day with each other. You should know that you can, but at the end of the day, you shouldn't be doing that all the time. So take breaks, go on vacations alone, go out with friends, go and do things apart, but always remember you guys are together. Anyway guys, I think that sums up this video. I just wanted to sit down, a bit more casual, a bit more like, face to face, and just discuss some dating stuff, because I'm not gonna lie, it's all happening in my own life at the moment. I go to a youth zone every week. I meet a lot of people, let's just say that. And sometimes these things go a tiny bit further than just friends, but I'm not going to get into details because the person who, knows who they are, and I'm sure they don't want me sharing it online. So that stays between us and me. But at the moment, yeah, there are a lot of things going on in my today life which resolves a relationship. So if I can tell you any more, I will, but it's probably not going to be for the next couple of weeks or months or whatever. But yeah, just so you know, things are happening. Anyway guys, I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, make sure you guys are smashing that like button, making sure you're taking these tips on board, and if any of these tips have worked, please leave your experiences in the comments down below. And yeah, I hope you've enjoyed, and if you've enjoyed this video even more than that and you want to be part of the community, please make sure you're hitting that subscribe button to kind of join the community and get regular mental health advice videos every week. Apart from that, guys, I hope you enjoyed, and I'll catch all you dudes next time.